Special guest this morning is Matthew Driskill, senior editor of Reuters news agency. Thanks for joining us, Matt. Good to have you on the show again.
Good morning.
Let's start off with our first story. This is your pick from South China Morning Post. H7N9 bird flu virus detected at 2 Shenzhen wet markets, and of course there have been a couple of hit cases in Hong Kong. We have had lots of outbreaks of different diseases in Hong Kong, and we're very cautious about them there. But do you think we're over-cautious in Hong Kong? At the moment, there haven't been any deaths in Hong Kong. There have been 45 deaths around China, but in the grand scheme of things, maybe not that significant.
I don't think with these kinds of diseases that you can be overly cautious or too cautious at all. I mean, I don't want to sound like Mr. Doom and Gloom or Mr. Apocalypse here, but if you look at what happened in 1918 with the Spanish flu, and that was only when there was 1.8 billion people in the world, and you had, their estimates ranged something on the scale of 20 to 50 million or even more deaths, and this was in 1918 before worldwide jet travel. You know, you could get on an airplane and be on another continent within hours. So it's a very serious thing, and it's something that I follow quite a lot because it's very interesting to me. And if you saw the movie Contagion that came out a couple of years ago, you'll see that it's not just the number of deaths that can occur, although that is a horrible thing, but it's also the complete breakdown of society. Basically, the economies will come to a halt. People won't be going to school. People won't be going to work. Any place, professional sporting events, anything like that happens, you're going to be staying at home.
All right, but this kind of thing happens around this time of year quite frequently, with the weather getting a little bit cooler. There's no suggestion here that human-to-human transmission is possible. At the moment, it's only from animal to human. So should we be panicking about it? No,
panicking, no. Taking precautions, washing your hands frequently. These are the kinds of things that the doctors and the medical professionals recommend. But it's also something, it's a broader problem, because around the world, although flu is a virus, so overuse of antibiotics is not going to affect that. But it plays into the same thing, because Mother Nature, we haven't really been taking care of Mother Earth the way we should, as everybody knows. And Mother Nature always finds a way to rebalance things. And so whether it's bird flu, whether it's the MERS virus, or whether it's SARS, Mother Nature is going to find a way to come after us. I mean, to me, and again, I don't want to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, but to me, this is the way I think the end of mankind is going to come about. It's not going to be a nuclear war. It's going to be Mother Nature coming after us.
A lot of the time, these diseases come from across the border and they're brought into Hong Kong. Do you think we're doing enough to cut it off at the source?
I think the governments, after the SARS outbreak, when the Chinese government came in for a fair amount of criticism, I think that they recognize that they've had problems in the past. And from everything that I've read, they've established research laboratories there, biosafety labs, those kinds of things. And so I think that they realize that they've got to get a handle on things very quickly, and they've got to stop it at the source. And speaking of stopping it at the source, one thing that I found out the other day, which I thought was very interesting, for the next 5 years in Shanghai, every Lunar New Year, they're going to stop live poultry markets for the next 5 years. So Shanghai, at least, is certainly aware of the problem, and they are taking active steps to put a halt to it.
The Chinese government's also taking steps to control such diseases. Let's move on to our next story, though. This one also out of Hong Kong, from The Standard. Ethnic minorities hardest hit by poverty. Poverty's been highlighted in Hong Kong recently because, of course, there was a report that came out saying that more than 1 million people in Hong Kong are living below the poverty line, which is astonishing for a population of 7 million. But are you surprised by this?
Actually, I was very surprised. But it's not so much just Hong Kong. It's a problem around the world. The income gaps are growing, whether it's in the U.S. or whether it's in Europe. The rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, as the old saying goes. But I lived in Hong Kong for quite a few years, and to me it was surprising the number of people, almost 20% of the population. And when you think about it, people living on Hong Kong 10,000 a month, which is, I did the conversion yesterday, it's about 1,600, 1,600 Singapore dollars. I mean, that's amazing to me. I mean, I don't understand how you can actually live on that amount of money.
Particularly with the high cost of rent and general high cost of living there.
Well, and that's a big problem. It's not just those that are below the poverty line that are getting squeezed on housing, for example, in Hong Kong. It's also the middle class. My family and I mean, we had to move several times in Hong Kong because this was after the SARS virus had hit. When we moved there in 2003, the rents were actually very reasonable, and we had a very nice place. And then all of a sudden, things started going up and up and up, and so we had to find ourselves moving every 2 years because the landlord says, "Hey, I can get 40,000 for this. I can get 50,000." I'm like, "Well, not from me." So it's a problem. So it's not just those under the poverty line, it's the middle class as well is getting squeezed very hard because of the housing policies.
Of course, it is much harder for people that are below the poverty line. 24% of ethnic minorities fall into that category. I read that, for instance, 51% of Pakistanis living in Hong Kong are living below the poverty line, which is an astonishingly high number. And we're not talking about domestic workers here. We're just talking about normal people that are residents in Hong Kong. They're the ones that are really struggling at the moment.
And again, it's a huge problem. It's housing, it's cost of living. Hong Kong is an incredibly expensive place to live. It's lack of education, for one thing. Hong Kong also does not have a minimum wage. So all of those factors combined create a big problem.
Now, do you think the government, the NGOs in Hong Kong are concerned that the government isn't taking seriously enough the issue for when it comes to ethnic minorities in particular? Would you agree with that?
Yes.
The short answer.
Well, I would, and I don't, I don't want to. Hong Kong is one of my favorite cities, and I don't want to knock it too bad. But Hong Kong is a lot like any other government. If you're in the minority, your voice is not heard unless it's from an NGO or some other organization like that. And it's very easy when you are living on the peak in Hong Kong to ignore the voices that are clamoring for better jobs, better housing, minimum wage, those kinds of things. It is not a group, it's a silent minority, if you will, because they're afraid to speak up. It's the old, if you're the nail that sticks up, you get hammered down. And that's very true in Hong Kong.
Right. Now, I've got to leave us time for our final topic. This one's been making the rounds on the internet. Obama-Cameron selfie at Mandela Memorial creates online stir. A lot of people have been saying it was disrespectful. Some people think it's all right. What's your opinion, Matt? Fair criticism or not?
Absolutely fair criticism. I thought it was in bad taste, and I don't know if they can put a copy of the photograph or one similar to it. But what I love about this is you've got Cameron, you've got, I think it's the Danish Prime Minister and Obama doing the selfie.
Yep.
But if you look at Michelle Obama's face, I mean,
we do have the pictures. Here they are. Here you can see.
If you look
Michelle
at her
Obama.
face, she does not look happy. And Michelle Obama, from what I've read and from what I understand, she is not a lady that you want to upset. And I think President Obama has said that himself
We
many
haven't
times.
had any response from her about these pictures, though. Nothing's been said so far, as I know.
The White House has not said anything, neither has Denmark, and neither has number 10 Downing Street. But, yeah, I mean, it's just there's a time and a place for everything. I mean, it shows me two things. One, it was incredibly bad taste, bad timing. But it also shows that these people are human and they make mistakes, too. You would hope that your leaders, though, would exhibit some a greater understanding of propriety at what you do at a memorial service.
Would you agree with that? Because, I mean, I suppose some people would regard it as being a solemn affair, but this was a celebration of Mandela's life. There was a lot of waiting time as well, sitting in the stadium there. I don't think it was such a bad thing, necessarily.
It could go either way. I mean, again, I don't mind them taking a selfie at the ceremony. It's getting caught on camera doing it.
Unfortunately,
they should have done it behind the curtains or in a security area or something like that. But when you're sitting down, you're not paying attention to the rest of the ceremony. You're not being respectful to the other participants. I just think it's bad taste.
Okay, but let me ask you this, though. If you were President Obama and David Cameron, you'd been sitting there, and it was obviously the Danish Prime Minister, Helle Thorning-Schmidt's phone that she'd pulled out, and she'd said, "Come on, guys, take a picture with me." What can you do? It would be impolite also to turn down her request, do you not think?
Well, I think the greater impoliteness is to not be respectful to the family of Mandela. I mean, you have to think about his widow when she sees his photograph splashed all over the world's press. How does it make her feel?
Absolutely. I agree that, the photos don't necessarily come across well. But anyway, I think everyone will have their own opinion on that one. It's been great to have you on the show, Matt. Thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
That was Matt Driskill there from Reuters. That's all we have time for this morning, and that's it for First Location. Do stay with the channel. 4 a.m. live just ahead.